Hey guys, it's been a while since I did a review, but let's talk about a Marvel book. Because today's a Marvel Monday. And every once in a while on a Monday, I'll talk about something Marvel for you. And today, we're talking some Marvel Star Wars. New canon, I know what you're thinking. Oh boy, let's see Jeremy rip this book a new one. And you remember back in the day, I reviewed a couple issues called Star Wars number 1 and 2. 1 was pretty good, 2 was pretty terrible. Well, let's talk about the first arc of this Jason Aaron Star Wars story called Star Wars Volume 1, Skywalker Strikes. Written by Jason Aaron, art by John Cassaday, colorist Laura Martin, letters by Chris Elopagos, and art by John Cassaday. That'd be the cover art. And, well, let's begin. Skywalker Strikes is sort of two stories. It collects, well, the first 6 issues of this Marvel Star Wars run. The first 4 issues take place on a moon called Moon 1. It's an Imperial weapons factory. Our main characters, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, R2-D2, and C-3PO, infiltrate this base to destroy it. Unfortunately, that goes south when Darth Vader shows up. So we have all of the key players from Episode 4 are right in the action here. And hilarity ensues. So let's talk about the first story in here, what I think. I didn't like it. I really didn't. I'll tell you what I did like, though. And this goes for all 6 issues. The art is beautiful. It is everything a modern Marvel Star Wars book should look like. It is just gorgeous art by John Cassaday. But unfortunately, art doesn't always save the book. And with this Marvel Star Wars book, that is key. Unfortunately, we see a lot of stupid happen in this book. The first issue was interesting. We had Leia tells Chewbacca to take the shot at Darth Vader because Chewbacca's on point. It's a sniper. And Chewbacca fails. And we think that Chewbacca's dead. Well, I hate to break this to you, but that doesn't work because we know he's going to be in Empire Strikes Back. This happens before Empire Strikes Back. So there's no tension there. Luke, one of the things I absolutely hate in the comic happens, and I talked about this in my Marvel Star Wars review, and I don't believe this is Jason Aaron's fault. I really don't. I believe this is a Marvel editorial thing. They said Luke and Darth Vader need to fight before Empire. So we're treading over the first EU story ever, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, where that happens. Well, Luke and Leia both take turns fighting Vader, and they get their asses kicked, and they fool Vader into a trap, and they escape. Spoilers, but that book's been out for nearly 40 years, so I don't feel too bad talking about that. But in this, Luke fights Vader. Well, they free a bunch of slaves. I should preference. They free a bunch of slaves because Luke wants to, because Luke's the good guy. And they're trying to escape on an AT-AT, and Luke fights Vader. Luke gets his ass handed to him by Vader. Of course, we knew that was going to happen immediately at the end of issue 1. Luke's got no chance against Vader. He has, I don't know, like 5 hours of Jedi training. It's kind of obvious that's going to happen. But we see everyone gets beaten up and really injured, and just, it was very unpleasant. And Vader starts to get this suspicion that Luke is not all that he seems, because Vader gets a hold of Luke's lightsaber, and he's like, hey, I know this lightsaber, how did he get it? Which will set up the events of the first story arc in the Star Wars Darth Vader series called Vader. That's one of the key plot points. Which By the way, the next 2 issues go into a little bit of that. It sort of sets up some stuff that's kind of a big deal, I guess, in the new canon. Well, first of all, there's a bounty hunter after Han Solo. That's not Boba Fett. And we find out kind of who she might be at the end of this. I won't spoil that. But it caused a lot of internet problems. That's the problem with this series. It's caused a lot of internet chaos and some grouchiness on the EU side. New canon people like, oh, it's fine, you know, it's such a clever idea. In my opinion, it's not a bad idea. We'll talk about that plot thread when I review the 2nd volume of this, because it turned out a lot different than I thought it was going to be. Meanwhile, Luke kind of leaves the rebellion, and he's like, I need to go back to Tatooine so I can learn the ways of being a Jedi from Obi-Wan's house. Kind of what happens in Shadows of the Empire, where Luke, after Empire Strikes Back, is hiding at Ben's shack. But in this, Vader is also on Tatooine, and he's like made a partnership with Jabba to go find information about Jabba, old Ben Kenobi, and he sends who else but Boba Fett after Luke. And of course, Luke and Boba Fett fight, and this is like issue 5 or 6. The problem with that is there's no lead up to Boba Fett. That was the thing that I think the EU did slightly better than this. In Star Wars Empire, for instance, or even the old Marvel Star Wars series, Boba Fett wasn't a key player until Empire. I mean, there's occasionally a Boba Fett story in Star Wars Empire. The first arc, Boba Fett shows up near the end to help Vader sort out the Valkyrie plot against him. Boba Fett is kind of doing his own thing at the moment. But having him in here, and mind you, this is not the Boba Fett that EU fans would like. He's not the witty sort of anti-hero. He's kind of a bit more sadistic in this, and he tortures someone just because he can. And he murders a bunch of people because he can. He comes off more as evil in this, as opposed to what we've seen him in the past being, which is that anti-hero that ends up training like Jaina to be a Mandalorian and stuff like that. It happens way later down the line. But yeah, in that regard, it's just not that good. And then we have a big revelation. Darth Vader has a big revelation at the end, which I will probably talk about because that ties into the Vader first arc. Okay, well, spoilers. He finds out that Luke's his son. Spoilers. I mean, we saw this coming 3 issues ago, so it finally happened. So now Vader knows that Luke's his son. And what happens after that? Well, you have to find out in the next volume if you want to. So overall, what do I give this story out of 5 stars? Give it 2.5. Actually, I give it 2 3/4 out of 5. Because the art's really good. And I do believe that with this first arc, their hearts were in the right place. Making it, I mean, we're talking about Marvel, who really, if you look at there's a sort of a panel that got leaked that my buddy Dylan was actually watching at Celebration last year, where they interviewed a whole bunch of people about the new canon, and they had the Marvel guys on there. Marvel guys couldn't answer any questions. They didn't know anything. Is that because they're just ignorant? I don't think so. I think this has to do with the Star Wars Story Group. The Star Wars Story Group does not want to be tied down with the canon, so they're just letting them write whatever they want. So Marvel played it safe. They made a bunch of movie characters and they're throwing it in. They haven't really made their own characters yet. At least not in the Jason Aaron Star Wars run. That will be subject to change in the next story arc. But until then, we got a play it safe story. And it was very successful. Also, the art is fantastic. Even if there's a lot of dumb things that happen in this book, it's still entertaining on a basic level. So it gets the 2 3/4 out of 5 stars. Do I recommend reading it? If you're a Marvel fan, read it. Because it's better Marvel stuff from this time period. Because, as in my opinion, I've said this in many videos, I'm not a big Marvel fan now because there's just so much crud you have to sift through in order to actually find something that's decent. And this is pretty decent. If you're an EU fan, don't read this. It will make you very disappointed. When I first read this, I was really irritated, but on a second read, it's not that bad. It's not that good, it's just kind of in the middle. The lukewarm of reading. So anyway, that's my review of Star Wars Skywalker Strikes. If you had a differing opinion or you had a similar opinion, comment down below. If you liked this video, thumbs up. If you liked it, thumbs down. You know, it doesn't really matter to me. Also, check out my Instagram and my Twitter. There'll be a link down below. And have a nice day, everyone.